All right, welcome to the Westport Virtual Academy Parent Night. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to go over several different things with you as we work through our first virtual night. This is the first time we have tried this, so bear with us if we have some technical difficulties as everything is relatively new. We're going to go ahead and go to the next slide.
All right.
All right, so how does a virtual parent night work? How does a virtual parent night work? So we're gonna communicate, but it's gonna be a little different because we're talking to you. You're not really talking back to us. It's gonna be through a chat. So you should all have a chat box available for you in the YouTube section. So type your questions in the chat box that's located to the right. We're gonna be watching the chat box, keeping track of questions and answering along the way. Some of the questions we'll save till the end of our meeting. We'll answer those in bulk. If there's something that we might need immediately, we will make sure that we answer that. To be able to post in the chat, you're going to need a YouTube account. So you can use your account. Your students also have a school account that will work and log them into their YouTube account through the school email. Just remember when you chat that students are watching, parents are watching, the community is watching. So make sure that we use our language appropriately. It's a place to just ask questions about the virtual academy. Don't forget there's also a delay. So we're about 20 seconds ahead of you in a Google Meet that's broadcasting through the YouTube channel. So we will get your questions answered. So there, we have a couple different people tonight that are helping us. So we're just going to introduce ourselves real quick and then we'll get started.
Hi, I am Andrea Ward. I'm new this year to West Fork as the curriculum and testing and professional development coordinator. And I've had quite a hand in the Moodle and virtual school as well. So I'm here if you need me. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
All right, and I'm John Unger. I'm the middle school principal, and I'm also the semi-director of the virtual academy. It's sort of a new thing. So all three of us on here tonight are making this thing work. So that's me, John Unger.
I am Corey Robbins. I'm the network administrator of the school, and I have been responsible for building Moodle into the platform that's customized for what we need to do from a virtual perspective and from an on-campus perspective, and have been leaning very heavily on the other two people in this chat.
All right, so before we get started, just make sure if you do have any questions or concerns or something's not working, just simply type it in the chat. We'll get with you as soon as we can. Just at the top of our slides, you'll see the different items we're going to talk about tonight, how to log in to Moodle, what the dashboard looks like for your student, what their schedule might look like in Moodle, what a learning objective is, because you see those on every unit and every subject, what the grades look like for the students in Moodle, how to communicate in Moodle or outside of Moodle and who to communicate to, and how to get tech support through Mr. Robbins and his staff. So our first one is going to be on how to log into Moodle. So I'm going to get it back to Corey, and he's going to take you through some of the details.
All right, so when you access Moodle, which you can click on your WF Bookmarks menu to get to, you should be greeted with a page that looks something like this. There is a slideshow, so you'll see various groups on our campus highlighted, and we'll add to those as the year goes by. The area that we are specifically looking at is this login box over here. When students log in for the first time, they will use the username combination of first name dot last name, and then the default password for all people on campus is capital W lowercase FPS 123 $. Once you type that in the first time, you have to make sure that you click this login button. You don't want to click Google until a little bit later on. Once you have that done, then you will be ready to go. And parents will always use this method of login, but students will eventually be able to use Google. Right, Mr. Unger?
Yeah, so here's just some main concepts about that. So make sure that parents always log in with their username and password. The majority of our students have been set up through the Google button, so that links their account to our school Google. All students have also been given in their grade level course several different lessons. So lesson 1.1 in the grade level guide shows the linking process to your students. So I think at this point most of us have done that throughout the district. This is for kids in Virtual Academy and kids in our brick and mortar school.
Come on.
One of the unique things about West Fork Virtual Academy is that our students that are in the actual school are at the same pace as the kids that are in the Virtual Academy. So if you did come back to school, you would be right there with the kids that are sitting in the desk every day, as well as if we do have to shut down for any reason, we'll be able to continue with all the students in our district at the same pace. So that's really the big piece of our Virtual Academy that separates it from most other districts. Our next topic is the dashboard. So what's the dashboard look like in Moodle?
All right, so a dashboard is just kind of a fancy term for a place on a website where you land to get the majority of your stuff done. It's a starting ground for or a way of kicking off into various areas of the site. So when a student logs in, and eventually when parents log in, they'll see something like this. So on the left side of their page, they have their primary nav bar or their primary menu. The center will have all of the major content, and then the right side will have a lot of scheduling information for the students to follow through. Each of your students, after they complete the grade level guide unit 1, should have a badge saying ready for virtual. So if they don't see this right there, then they haven't gone all the way through this grade level guide. Something to kind of draw your attention to is this area right here. The completion progress bars are a color-coded set of bars that help you navigate through Moodle or to plan where you are in your courses. So you can see right here that we have some blue boxes, we have yellow boxes, green boxes, and red. A blue box shows an assignment or represents an assignment that has not yet been completed but is expected to be completed for that specific course. A yellow box means that it's an assignment that has been completed, but you're working on, or you're still waiting on a teacher to provide feedback or a grade or some other sort of block in the road that they put before it counts as being completely finished. Green means that everything has been completely finished and that that's good to go. And then red is what happens when an assignment is overdue and not yet finished. So these colors are supposed to be an immediate indicator or at a glance of how you're doing in the class or how your student is doing in the class, and a way of staying on top of things. But as this little starburst thing says, this is not how you should navigate your courses. It's extremely important that whenever you go into a course or you need to try to work through a course, that you are accessing the full course just the same way that you would walk into a normal classroom every day, sit and wait for the instructions. It's the same sort of concept. You wouldn't walk into a normal classroom and just pick up the papers off the teacher's desk and walk out without any information. So the first things on the right side, that you can see that's really important is the timeline. And this timeline, you can go through and use this top block to set how many assignments in the future you want to see, or if you want to see past assignments. And if you only want to see overdues, it would highlight overdue assignments in red. The ones that are in gray like this means that they're upcoming and that you just need to stay based on this due date to stay on track. Then if we move further down the page, you'll see more of my completion block here, and then you'll see recently accessed courses. And this recently accessed will just show you basically that, the courses that you've accessed most recently, and you'll be able to use these little arrows right here to navigate through if you kind of want a shortcut. Over here on the side, you'll see our little mini calendar, and these miniature calendars are color coded. So if it's purple, it means that there's an event on that day. If it's this kind of creamy yellow color, I don't really know what color that is, but this color right here means that that's the current date. And hovering over these colors will bring up a little pop-up menu that shows you the name of the assignment and will give you a link to immediately access assignments. Right below that is an upcoming events list, and that will show any of the assignments that haven't been, or that are coming up in the future. It'll show the time that they're due and the date that they're due. Sorry, there's messages coming in. Making sure that I didn't need to pay attention to it. Sorry. So then continuing down the page, we'll get our course overview, and there'll be a tile specific for every class that your student is enrolled in, along with another completion status bar. So this is an indicator of where you are at that day. So if there are 12 assignments posted and you see 100%, that means that you've done all 12 assignments that you're expected to complete. So make sure that you're using these status bars as what they're intended for, but not as a replacement for navigation. Then this part on the right is just a continuation of my upcoming events list. You can see that it can be pretty long depending on how many classes and how many assignments are due that week. And then if I click on it, there's a thing that says go to calendar. And that actually leads us to schedules, I believe. Mr. Unger, if you want to take the main ideas.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So I hope that helped guide you. We had some questions today that came into the office about the status bars and what the courses look like on the main dashboard. So I hope that helps parents understand that there is the status bars, but if you scroll down, you can get to the main course easier. So remember, the completion progress is a status check. It's not all of the course info. Also, the example that we just showed you had attendance every day, so not all classes will have that. So you might not see check attendance every day. It's just an easy way to pay attention to the timeline and the upcoming events for your student. So if there's any questions so far, feel free to put them in the chat. We really want to answer as many questions as possible. So just a reminder to make sure that you use that. If you joined us a little bit later, you do have to have a YouTube account, or you can use your student's email login. They have an account to YouTube through our school Google account. So we encourage you to ask questions. So our next thing is going to be schedule. So we're moving right along.
All right. Okay, so like I said, that last link in the upcoming activities takes you to something that says go to calendar, and that'll bring up a screen that looks a lot like this. And it's exactly the same as that little miniature calendar that we saw earlier. It's just the full version of it. So again, this is color coded, and the student that I used to do this on didn't have any other event types, but there might be red for a specific group activity, and there might be a yellow for if it's just an event reminder. But these purple ones relate to individual assignments or activities that need to have some sort of an interaction. On the right side, where you can't really see right now, there are also three little miniature calendars. There's the month previous, the current month, and 1 month in the future that they'll be able to follow. This area right here, whenever they're on here, you can choose from month view, a week view, and then you can also just change the entire page to an upcoming activities view. The second drop down beside it also lets you filter the calendar to show only specific courses. So if you want to look at your student's calendar and just pull up one course worth of a calendar, this is one of the ways that you can do that. Something that is kind of cool is this export calendar button right here. If you do this, it'll take you to a link that will show you how to link it to your Google Calendar. So if your students use Google Calendar, or if you have Google Calendar on your phone, you can subscribe to your students' course calendar, and you'll get alerts whenever they have due dates and that kind of thing. And you can do that on your personal calendar in addition to the students doing it on theirs. If you click on an activity inside of the calendar, you'll get a pop-up for the event, and this is a sample of one of the Spanish 1 events that's been created. You'll get the activity description that was provided by the teacher, and you can have a kind of shortcut to the assignment, a shortcut to the course, and an add submission button kind of hot link that will take you immediately to the course if you already had the work done and you were just trying to get there and get things turned in. Okay, and the next element of scheduling to look at is inside actual courses. So if you look at a unit, you'll see quite a lot of information that's pretty much immediately available. Obviously, we have our unit title right here, and this is one of the grade level courses, I believe. Then this area right here that I've highlighted in red shows when the unit should be started and should be stopped if the student is on track. So this is kind of a nice way of at a glance knowing what your pacing should be as you're going through the courses in Moodle. Then when you open up an assignment, at the bottom of each assignment there will be this due date block or dates block, and there's some important information here too. One of the things that I want to point out is that this due date right here is what we're calling a soft due date, meaning that it's designed to provide an element of pacing. So trying to stay with this date means that meeting all of those milestone dates will make sure that your student stays on track all the way through the course. But we also understand that, especially in virtual settings, that it's sometimes difficult to be able to meet super hard deadlines that would normally be easy to do in a classroom. So all assignments also have a cutoff date, the following Sunday at 11:59 p.m. The next thing that's available on this page for us is the time remaining until the soft due date, and this is just kind of a running, countdown timer to kind of give us a heads up of, whether we need to have a little bit more energy or push a little bit harder. All right, Mr. Unger.
All right. So answered a few questions in the chat box. Just to clarify about the attendance. When you saw the attendance on the calendar, that means they set it up for an event to happen. So not all teachers are going to do that. It could be something important for the lower grades to get those routines set up so kids are used to checking attendance. As we get into the upper grades, especially 9 through 12, those routines are set up a little bit better because the kids can understand quicker. So for our main ideas for the schedule, just remember assignments for the week are due Sunday night by 11:59. There is a soft due date for each assignment, so pay attention to that just to keep the students on pace. Unit start and stop dates are directly under the unit titles, which will help guide your week if you're trying to plan your week for your student. So any questions, just feel free to chat us. We're trying to respond to them as we get them in. So the next piece is about objectives. So you're going to notice if you've already been in Moodle, which the majority of you have, you're going to notice each unit has an objective page with different information and dates. We're going to go over what that means and why that's there.
All right. Okay, so this is an example of a unit objectives page, and each unit is going to have one of these. So directly under a unit title, like I showed you a bit earlier, you'll have the unit number .0, unit objectives, readings, and due dates. And we start this off with having important information. So the video 2 hours, reflection 1 hour, and practice 6 hours in this example means that for your student to complete the entire unit, your teacher is estimating that there's 2 hours of video, that there is 1 hour of reflection or thinking about the concepts and not actually like actively using them, but trying to conceptualize the process. And then also 6 hours of actual practice. So this would be the actual assignment time. And don't freak out, because this is for the entire unit. So if you combine all of the time in 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.10, that's all going to equal this amount of time. The next thing that we have is the unit title again. And then right after that, we'll have our essential questions. And essential questions are supposed to be the questions that the students can ask themselves, and after completing all of the lessons in that unit, should be able to answer with confidence. So after completing unit 1 of this class, they should be able to say what a real number is and how real numbers are used to solve problems. It's just kind of a quick check that you can ask your kids and that your kids can ask themselves to make sure that they're understanding what's important. The next thing is the actual lesson block. And the lesson block has several pieces of information. The first is the 1.1 or whatever unit dot the assignment in that pool. So the 4th lesson in the 2nd unit would be 2.4. Then you would have the assignment title, and then you have the due date for that assignment. Again, this is your soft due date. So this is what we're going to use for pacing. Following that, you have the essential standard, and this relates to Arkansas essential standards for curriculum. Everything should be able to be tied back so that eventually you can, probably not you, but we, as we're going through courses, can tie things back to what standard things are supposed to be helping to build on. The learning target, again, is an immediate check that's supposed to be in place whenever you're going through this assignment. So after you finish 1.1, this individual lesson, a student should be able to make this statement and it be true. I can classify a number as rational or irrational. I can understand the concepts of square roots and perfect squares. If that's not true, then something in this lesson did not work. Either they need to ask for more instruction, or they need to figure out a way to get that explained to them. So they should chat with their teacher and say, hey, I don't get this. Then directly after that, you have any readings that are specific to the individual lesson. So for in this lesson, to get through it, you have to read pages 2 and 4, or 2 through 4 of chapter 1. Mr. Unger?
All right, thanks. So that's a lot of information. So this page, this objective page, is there for the parent, the student, and the teacher. So Corey had mentioned the essential standard that all teachers use to teach a subject. Some of your students have been taking a diagnostic test in ScoopPad, which is something that is new to our district this year. So that teacher can see if your child is struggling in that specific lesson and attach it to that specific essential standard, and we can get some more help with your student through a program in ScoopPad. So that's why we do that, so we can break down each learning target for each kid. So each unit's going to have these objective pages, and all the different lessons are going to be in that page. The unit objectives are going to show all the learning targets that we're expecting the teacher to present and for the student to learn. There are no assignments on this page, and that can be confusing because it's the first thing you're going to see in a unit, and it's just reading through, telling us, it's sort of like a mini syllabus. So we're going to watch and see what we're going to learn and then go from there. There's also, in our grade level guide, 1.2 shows the the students the same information we just showed you, just so they're aware of what that page is. So again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. We're answering those. We're also going to save some for the end. If you do have a specific question or a comment about a specific class, I just encourage you to reach out to that teacher directly. Some things are a little different in each class. So one teacher might do a submission one way, another teacher might do a quiz submission. So if you're having an issue with the teacher, I recommend that you get with that teacher first, and they're going to get back with you as soon as they can. And if they don't, then you're more than welcome to contact the building principal, so we can make sure that we get that. I do see a lot of questions in the chat that are student specific or teacher specific to a course. So I just encourage you to ask those same questions to those teachers, because they are more aware with exactly how they built each submission. So our next category here is our grading system. I know a couple of you have asked about this. How do you see grades and what do our grades look like in Moodle? So go ahead, Corey.
All right. Okay, so when your students log in, they should have a thing on the left side of their page that says My Grades. And clicking on this link takes you to a set of grades that are immediately updated as soon as the teachers post a grade. So this is what would show up as soon as you click. So for example, Kickstart Demo, since it has this little tick box over here, that means that there's not a grade on that course. Again, Chemistry 2021, there's not a grade on that course because the demo student that I'm using, I haven't submitted any test assignments to those courses for them to be graded. This sophomore grade level guide, I submitted something and then it was graded, so I got an A, and I achieved a 97% on that. So it tells me the numerical grade and the percent that was earned. This marketing and business enterprise thing, I don't remember why I decided to fail myself, but I did. So this is what it looks like if you get a really, really poor grade on something. But again, tick means that there isn't currently a live grade for the student. So if you click on user report up there, then what it's going to do is take you to the individual class. So this is, again, the sophomore grade level guide. And if I work down the page, I'll see every piece of the course that I have some sort of a grade attached to. So I can walk through the course and see each assignment that I'm responsible for. I'll see the letter grade and the percent grade for each assignment. This means that this assignment hasn't been graded. It might not have been turned in yet. Then the next one is range. So how many points possible are there? So in this 1.3, it means that there are 0 to 100 points available. In 1.7, it means that 10 points is my max potential score. Moving over, I see just the hard percent, so it just carries over from the grade column, 95%, 95%. The column directly after is any feedback that's being submitted by the teacher, so that's immediately available in this column right here. And this contribution to course total, this is probably a portion of the gradebook that looks a little bit scary, but this 47% doesn't mean anything about me having a 47% in the class. What it means is that this score right here reflects 47% of the overall possible score. So if I keep going, I should be totally fine, and it's probably best to just kind of ignore this column over here, especially in the early stages, because most of the percentages are going to be really, really low. All right, Mr. Unger.
All right. I was just reading some of the questions. Some of these questions were probably easier just to talk about than type, but just a few little questions. One of them was about scrolling down as the year goes on. So our teachers are also new to this, and so they are learning as they go as well. Some of them have been through some extensive training since May. Not all of them were. Some of them went through about 9 days of training before we started school. So they're learning different buttons. So a couple of you asked, like, something's there on Monday, then on Tuesday it's gone. So they're learning how to hide things from students that don't need to be there, and they're learning how to add different submission types to make the activities more engaging. So as we go, and there might be 7 units on a page, they're learning how to hide Unit 1 when we're done with Unit 1, and all those kids are completed. They're also learning how to hide all the units that we're not working on right now. So it's a process. Just like we're having to teach the kids and teach the parents, we've also had to do a lot of teaching with our teachers, because they haven't. The majority of teachers in the United States of America, across the globe, have never had to teach this way. So grades, just like Corey said, the grade functionality in Moodle is going to be there for the kids and the teachers and the parents. We're going to keep track of the grades in Moodle and transfer those over to eSchool. So that's sort of a new process where some parents have been going to eSchool to look for their kids' grades. You're not going to see that. You will see their 9 weeks grade in eSchool and their semester grades, so their report cards will be there. I know in our building we do a 5-week progress report, so we'll run that and you'll see that grade in eSchool. So those things with eSchool are just going to be a percent grade. They're going to transfer over. If the kid, I think Corey showed a 13% F in one, that grade would be transferred over to eSchool, and that's the grade you would see, that final grade. There also is a grade level guide 1.8 that shows students how to check grades. So have your child walk you through that. That might help you. Also, understand a few questions there for our teachers that haven't reached out, so we'll make sure that we get that message out to them. So I appreciate that question and that concern. Our next one is about communication, which leads us right from that question that somebody had asked on how do you communicate with the teacher, how does the student communicate with the teacher, and who should you be communicating with on a daily basis. Go ahead, Corey.
All right. So what I have pulled up right here is the Moodle messaging system, and this is accessed by clicking on the little talk bubble at the top right of any page. And I just have basically a conversation with myself going on here. So me as the teacher, I received a message saying, please help me with lesson 1.4. Then I provided a Google Meet address so the student is able to click on this link and get to a video chat. And for those of you that don't know what Google Meet is, that's what we're actually using to present. So I'm turning that back on now, so you should see Mr. Unger and I here, so we can see each other, we can talk, and there's a chat box so that we can share links and all that kind of thing. And then I'll go back to the presentation. There's a chat box so that we can share things with each other and kind of work through some problems that are just easier to share or to figure out when you can see each other's screens. We're actually using Google Meet to share a screen right now, so Mr. Unger is seeing the same thing you are, but I'm sharing it through Google Meet. So this is built into Moodle, and what we're trying to encourage to be the primary form of communication, because everything is based on classes. So if your student is in a teacher's class, they immediately have the availability to message those teachers. Let's see. If you are a parent and you need to find the email address of a teacher, then we have a district directory that's available on the website. You would just go to westforkschools.org and it's under our district. There's a staff directory that's filterable by building and department. You can search for a teacher's name, and then Mr. Maska right here, if we wanted to, we could click on this link that says send Tom Maska an email. That'll open up your email program and you have direct communication with him immediately. Mr. Unger?
Yeah, thanks. So as I was saying, your first contact with any of your Moodle classes should be the course teacher, because the course teacher is the one who actually built this class. I didn't build the class, Corey didn't build the class, Moodle didn't build the class. Our teachers worked for 10 days in May, building the curriculums and the unit plans. And then, like I said earlier, several of them worked over the summer to help get started with Moodle. So they know firsthand what they did or didn't do. They're learning the more of the things that they didn't do correctly the first time through. But we also have a lot of really good classes out there, a lot of really good content with some interactive features, lots of videos, lots of engagement. And as we get all of our students with internet, which we've been passing out the hotspots to the students that don't have internet, our engagement will increase because we'll be able to do more things that we can do with all kids online. One of the good features that Corey just showed you was the chat through Moodle. I do know that all students offline, virtual, he put a unit in the grade level guide about getting the app. So if your student is able to have a cell phone, they can get the app and they can chat with teachers easily through the app. For me, it's easier to chat through the app than it is through the actual Moodle interface on a computer. Again, 1.3 in the grade level guide shows students how to contact teachers. Students can also email their teacher at any time. I know our teachers were doing a lot of emails today and contacting students that haven't been engaged yet. But if you are not getting contact, or your student's not even getting contact by their teacher, please email, contact your building. So the elementary kids contact Mr. Thaler, middle school, you contact myself in the office through email or telephone. The high school, please contact Mr. Crowder, so we can make sure our teachers understand that they need to contact the parents, or if there's something missing there.
Right.
All right, our next thing is tech support. So this is Corey and his staff there in the office.
All right, so as you can probably imagine, doing tech support for something that relies on home internet access can get a little bit tricky because everybody has their own setups, everybody has their own Wi-Fi availability, and things just get complicated. So what we're using right now is the support ticket system, and this is available through one of the links on the top of the Moodle pages. When you get here, you will click on the login button right up there. And once you've clicked on that, you're going to click on the Google button. This login box over here just does not work because all of our accounts go through Google. Once you've clicked on the Google button, you'll get access to this button right here that says New Support Ticket. So you'll click on that guy, and then you have these boxes to fill out. For subject, you'll just give us kind of a brief, can't access an assignment, or having trouble submitting, or my Chromebook won't charge, or something like that. And then the description of the problem, the more detailed you can be, the better. Details are really good to help us out. It limits the amount of times that we have to go back and forth with you instead of just being able to get to an answer right away. Once you've given your description, you can attach a screenshot if you want to show us, like, hey, this really did explode, or, and you know, whatever the case may be. And then to finish, you'll hit this yellow submit button. We'll get that, and then that'll go directly to our emails and a bunch of other stuff, so you can go ahead and expect an email reply from us. Something else that helps a whole lot whenever you're dealing with this kind of thing is the ability to, like I said, sometimes it's just easier to see somebody else's screen. So at the very top of the Moodle menu bar, there's a button that says Remote Desktop Support. And clicking on that will take you to a website that has this at the very top. So if you click Generate Code, you will be given an access key that you will share with us specifically on the phone. This isn't something that we can do over email. It's we'll arrange to talk to you over the phone. We'll ask you for this code you'll generate it and give it to us, and then that will give us temporary access to help you remotely, so we can actually control your keyboard and mouse and help you find the right buttons to push and that kind of thing. And if at any point you just decide that you're tired of us being remoted in, you can just close that page and we'll lose access immediately. All right, Mr. Unker.
All right. So like Corey said, make sure if you do have a tech issue, so something's not working on the Chromebook, like keys or the screen's broken or some type of connectivity issue, that's a tech support. If it's a classroom issue, make sure that you are contacting the school teacher or the school principal. The way I look at it is the Moodle classes are just like the actual class. If I walk down the hall and visit Miss Franklin in 5th grade, her kids are in there. The same thing on Moodle. It's her class. I visit that classroom. She's the one that can answer those questions. As I said earlier, our teachers in the classroom are using Moodle and they're teaching these kids how to use these buttons. I noticed in the chat some people talking about the submissions. That has been an issue. We've reached out to the teachers. We also had several hundreds of issues with Google Classroom and submissions. So it's not just Moodle, it's also with Google. So it doesn't really matter what kind of LMS that you use, you still have to learn how to use the system. So we are managing that, and we are learning the system as quickly as possible, just like we did with Google. I will say, whenever we decided to use Moodle, the decision was not about money. The decision was about building a curriculum that would last for years in our district, and one that was aligned K through 12. All principals and district administrators sat in a room, and we wanted to know, how can we make our district better? How can we make our district a district where we know in the 2nd grade they're teaching this skill, and if that teacher leaves, we are going to be able to hire a teacher, and they're going to know exactly what we're teaching at West Fork Elementary. Same thing with the middle school and the high school. So we decided to use Moodle because it's going to serve as that server for us. It keeps all of our essential standards. It keeps all of our units in place. It rolls over year to year, so we will get better, just as any teacher in a regular classroom would do. They would improve from year to year on that process. We understand that there is a lot of time that it takes to teach teachers, parents, and students. I wouldn't want to give up on anything. As a former coach, if I lost a game on Tuesday and Friday, I wouldn't give up on my team. I'd go back to practice and try to make them better for the next week. So that same process works with technology in the classroom as well. We understand there is some problems, and that's why we hosted this event, and we're going to host some more events. Could be bi-weekly. We haven't made that decision yet because we want to hear feedback from all of the parents and students and be able to talk about specific issues that you guys need some help with. I'm here, Ms. Ward is here, your building principals are here, Corey's here to help make this process a little bit easier. I will tell you, in the middle school building, I went through all the rooms today, and our teachers are having to do the same thing that we're having to do on virtual. We're having to teach the kids all the buttons and the different concepts. And that's just good teaching practice, making sure that we understand how all the processes work. So it is time consuming. We haven't got to a lot of content in any of the buildings because we're having to teach these processes. So if you don't teach the process, then the whole year will be destroyed. So we're making sure that we cover our fundamentals first, get the foundation. So we're going to try to go through and answer any questions that might be on here.
I'm going to go ahead and put this back to where we're presented instead of the screen.
Sure.
All right.
I tried to answer most of the questions through here. I do see some some of them aren't really questions, but more like statements about Google Classroom or the use of Moodle and how it is confusing. I don't know if, Corey, you want to talk a little bit about that and the difference between Google Classroom and Moodle?
Sure. Sure. And I also see a couple of other suggestions about finding platforms specific for elementary. First off, with Moodle, Moodle is kind of a deceptive label. It is a platform that is free and open source, but that doesn't mean that it's the easy way, and it doesn't mean that there's not cost associated. What it means is that you get software and then you have to manipulate it to make it fit the environment. So what we've done is take something that is raw and make it into something that we feel that over the next several years is going to be able to be developed into a platform that will serve as K-12. I will admit that elementary right now does not have the best layout for younger kids, but there aren't really any LMSs that we've found that do have really strong layouts for that age group. One of the options is Seesaw. That's one of the more popular LMSs across the country, and it's very, I actually find Seesaw complicated. Google Classroom is not really an LMS. It is designed to be used very much in a classroom setting. So if you're a teacher that you're guaranteed to see your kids every day, you can do a lot of really powerful stuff with Google Classroom. But if you're trying to teach virtually, or if you're trying to work with kids in a remote setting, it's really hard to get that additional layer of engagement through Google Classroom because it only has 4 options. You can post information, or you can post an assignment or a quiz, or add it's called a material. But you're limited to what you can do in a Google document. You can't use other file types. So without being able to get that more engaging activity type for the kids, for elementary kids also, elementary kids have to take ACT Aspire, and they have to take MAP testing, and one of the big things that those age grouped kids tend to struggle with is the ability to manipulate a keyboard and a mouse to take something and drag it into something else. And Moodle has functionality built into it that practices that skill set. So they're learning those soft skills, or those things that are going to help them be more successful on the required testing, that they're not going to get from something like Google Classroom. Seesaw is very similar to Google Classroom. It's just got some added like announcement functionality and that kind of stuff built in. I will tell you that one of the things on the agenda for the very near future is for us to begin talking about how to include K1 in this, and is that practical? I know that the kindergarten and first grade teachers have mentioned seeing benefit to having those videos posted in Moodle or to a platform that the kids can get to instead of having to rely on flash drives. And as part of that process, what we're going to look at is having a more app screen style approach to how the courses are organized. So instead of you logging in as a middle school student or a high school student and seeing, your unit structure and your completion progress, maybe kindergarten through 4th grade logs in and they see tiles for each one of their courses. You click on the tile to access your course, and then it's like Unit 1 with a picture of what Unit 1 is about, a little example or a little description about it, and it brings up everything in blocks, which is a much more functional environment. But that's something that takes a lot of extra time, and what we were kind of banking on or hoping that we could do is capitalize on the learning of something district wide, or at least 2 through 12, to pick one approach and then be able to have it to where 2 through 12 teachers could work together, could work with us on the same thing, figure out how to make it better for the younger kids, and then adapt that way. But unfortunately, regardless of money. Like, there is not a platform that you can just go buy that is ready for this sort of a learning model. There are entire institutions that you can do, but even if you use their content, it still has to have the interaction between the students and the teachers, and that's not built into anything. Hopefully that's an answer.
Yeah. Yep. I appreciate it. So I see some of your comments about we do understand the struggles. I'm a parent as well, so I've had a kid in Google Classroom and it was a struggle. I've had a kid in iReady and it was a struggle. So it's just the process of learning these systems. So we just have to be patient. We want to hear y'all's feedback as much as possible. We are not ignoring you. We do understand that parents are telling us that their kids are having breakdowns because of the platform. We want to encourage our teachers to have live Google Meets with those kids. We've given virtual time to elementary teachers, middle school teachers, so they can do that. So I just encourage you as much as possible to reach out to those teachers in your communication with them. I encourage you to suggest a live Google Meet with your child, just to so your student can have that. Here coming up soon, you're going to start seeing the asynchronous learning, so where the teacher is going to record their lesson. So that'll be an extra resource for the kid in their Moodle classrooms. I do know that 95% of our classes have excellent videos. There is some teachers classes that they're going to use those supplemental videos of them teaching whenever they get to that. So I appreciate the feedback on the chat tonight. I hope that we answered all of your questions. We're going to host one of these again. I'm going to send out a Google form to all parents to get some feedback. I'm going to send that out tomorrow morning, so look for that in your email. If you have not been getting the phone messages about virtual school or the text messages, please contact the middle school office and we will add you, make sure that you are on that list, because it's an automated system. Let's see, a couple more questions. So what method are teachers using for virtual classroom collaboration? I will tell you that in the elementary school and the middle school, those teachers are collaborating in their plan time to try to work together as much as possible. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question there. Any feedback, I'm just answering Candace there, any feedback you give to the teachers will help them. If there's a misunderstanding on some assignment, all the assignments were labeled like 1.0, 1.1, 1.2. That becomes a file issue. So we just have to make sure, so it might say 1.1 addition and subtraction. 1.2 addition and subtraction of 2-digit numbers. So, and the reason we do that is so it's easy to find those files.
Mr. Unger, if you're okay with it, I do want to show them one thing to kind of look at.
Sure.
So there are several things about, or I've seen a few things about things not being marked as complete even though they're finished. So I'm going to open up an assignment. So I'll click on the course name to get to the class, and then I'll find an assignment I haven't done. So let's do it's taking more internet than I thought it would, sorry. So 1.4, counting in base 10 blocks. This is a demo course, so kind of ignore all the writing. So when I click this add submission button, it is a multi-step process. So what I'm going to do right here is use the online text. So, world's best paper. Then once I have my novel or whatever I've written, I'll hit save changes, And that should take me back to the assignment page. So you do have to remember to scroll down to the bottom of the assignment, and it says draft not submitted. So the reason that this is a thing is, I'm not showing my screen, am I? I'm sorry. So I've submitted the assignment the first time. So the reason that this now says submission status as a draft is that it holds the first submission to where you can edit it. So let's say that your kids are working at grandma's house or something like that. They work on an assignment, upload it, but you don't get off work until 5. So, 6 or 7 after dinner, you want to look at their assignments. Well, they can still open this assignment and click this edit submission button. Once they click that edit submission button, you'll be able to read over and review what they're wanting to submit. So once you're good with it, you'll hit save changes to confirm. And then at the bottom, you have an actual submit assignment. And this is where things get different depending on your teacher. So basically, you want to keep hitting continue or submit until your teacher has decided that that's enough. So this one is a confirmation that it's my own work, and I'll hit continue. And this can be set by your individual teacher. But what I'm looking for is this green submitted for grading. So you're finished when you have that message. But if you stop in the submission process before that, it won't count it as complete. Hopefully that makes some sense and kind of answers why you may not have seen it before. I'm switching back to the Meet. Maybe. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's 7 o'clock. We figured we'd take about an hour of your time tonight, so we appreciate you joining. Like I said, look for a form from us, just talking about Virtual Academy, things we can improve on, and follow our Facebook page if you're not on there, West Fork School District, and we will post our next parent night as soon as we have a date for that. So thank you for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.